Hello my friends, this is Lindsay for So Fontsy. In today's tutorial, we are sharing how to do your first vinyl project with your ScanNCut. So we want your first vinyl project to go as smoothly as possible, so we're sharing lots of tips and tricks. First off, starting with the right design. You want to pick a design for your first vinyl project that will be beginning friendly. So you can find a whole bunch of fonts and SVG designs for your first vinyl project in the Beginning Crafters SVG and font bundle at So Fontsy. So it's a whole bundle full of fonts and SVG designs that are going to be a good choice for your first vinyl project, and you can pick up the design that I'm going to be using in this tutorial. Some of the other supplies that you're going to need for this project are some permanent adhesive vinyl like Oracal 651. You'll need some transfer tape, a burnishing tool, a pair of scissors, and then something to apply your vinyl to. And for your first vinyl project, preferably something smooth and flat, like a glass vase like this. And for your first vinyl project, I would avoid working on something that's exceptionally small. So with this glass vase, the decal ended up being about 2.5 inches, and for your first project, I would avoid going any smaller than that. But hopefully with this tutorial and the tips and tricks that we're sharing, that you will become more confident and feel more comfortable working with your first vinyl project. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, go ahead and open up Canvas Workspace. This is the PC version of Canvas Workspace that you download onto your computer, which is the version I prefer to use over the online version, but you could certainly use that as well. Go to the SVG icon and find the saved SVG on your computer. This design is one from the Beginning Crafters bundle with So Fontsy, and there's a link in the video description to that bundle, which is full of great SVGs and fonts for beginning crafters. Next, go ahead and group the design together by clicking and dragging your mouse cursor over the entire design to select all the parts to it. Then right-click on the design and click Group from the drop-down menu. Then you can go ahead and resize the design by either clicking and dragging the corner anchors, or go into the edit panel and manually type in the dimensions that you want. I ended up sizing this design to about 2.5 inches because that's the size that would fit onto the glass vase I wanted to use. Next, transfer the design to your ScanNCut. There's a link in the video description to a blog post about the different ways to transfer designs to your ScanNCut. I'm going to transfer via the internet. Next, take a piece of Oracal 651 permanent adhesive vinyl and cut it a little bigger than your design. So this design was about 2.5 inches, so I cut this vinyl square to about 3.5 inches. Just gives you a little bit of wiggle room as far as spacing the design onto the vinyl. Place the vinyl onto your cutting mat, and if your cutting mat is brand new, then you probably just need a very light touch to adhere it to your mat. But if your mat is used, then you may need a brayer to roll across it, and or a piece of washi tape around the edges to keep the vinyl down. Next, I recommend a test cut, and not just for your first vinyl project, but really anytime you do a vinyl project. So I have a scrap piece of the same type of vinyl that I'm putting in the other corner of my mat. And load the mat into the machine, and then retrieve the design by tapping the Retrieve Data button, then the method of transfer. I used Transfer via Internet, which is the icon of the computer with the Wi-Fi lines coming out of it. Then you'll see the design on the ScanNCut screen. Tap on it, and then there'll be this red box around it, which means it's selected. And you can use your stylus or your finger to tap and drag it into position so that it is in the same position on the virtual mat on your screen as the vinyl is on your cutting mat. Select OK, please select, cut. Tap test to do your test cut, which again I recommend every time that you cut vinyl. And the triangle test cut will be placed on your mat, and you can tap on it and drag it so that it is in the position of that scrap piece of vinyl on your mat in the right corner of the cutting mat. Then click start, and it's going to go ahead and perform the test cut. And I'm very glad that I did a test cut this time because I actually forgot one very important thing. I forgot to turn on the half cut feature, which is used when cutting vinyl. And here you'll see that when I take the scrap piece of vinyl off the mat to check the test cut, that it has cut completely through this vinyl piece. You can see the detached triangle, which is exactly what we don't want when cutting vinyl. So put this vinyl scrap back onto the mat, then back on the ScanNCut machine. Since the test cut didn't go as well as we wanted, then tap test again. And then you want to move the test cut triangle somewhere else on the mat, and you can tap and drag it, or you can tap the arrow across and use the arrow keys to move the test cut to a different area on the scrap vinyl. Then this time tap the wrench icon, and here you can change the cut settings. Tap the down arrow, and here you'll see the half cut feature, so tap on to turn it on. Then hit OK, then start. And then the test cut will be performed again, but this time with the half cut feature on, and that is designed so that the blade will cut only through the vinyl and not all the way through the vinyl backing. Well, hopefully you still want to do the test cut just to make sure it does what it says it's going to do. But sure enough, when the test cut is done, when I hold it up to the light, you can see the cut lines there. But I weed out the triangle. I like to use a hand sewing needle just to kind of stab and grab it, and only that vinyl triangle comes up. The backing is still left intact, and that triangle came up really easily. I didn't have to pull it or rip it. That would be an indication that you might need to increase the cutting pressure or perhaps change your blade. But let's just pretend that the second test cut did not go well and I needed to perform another test cut with adjusted settings. So go back to test again, move the test cut triangle, tap the wrench icon, and because half cut is on, since we're cutting vinyl, we will be adjusting the half cut pressure settings, which you can see is currently set to auto, but use that plus or minus button to adjust. You can select numbers 1 through 9, 9 being the highest pressure. Since the previous test cut was set to half cut auto pressure, let's go ahead and pretend that it didn't cut deep enough into the vinyl. I would need to adjust that half cut pressure to, let's say, 5, somewhere between 1 and 9, and perform the test cut again, and I would see how that did. So again, you would just check the triangle test cut on the vinyl to see how well it cut, and you could repeat these steps as many times as you need to, adjusting the pressure up or down depending on how the test cut performed. Hopefully you won't have to though, because I found that the half cut auto pressure was perfect for this Oracal 651. If you want to check out this vinyl, I have a link in the video tutorial, as well as to the ScanNCut SDX85, which is the machine that I'm using to cut on. So once you've found that perfect test cut, just go ahead and click start, and those test cut settings will then be applied, and the machine will cut out the rest of the design with those same settings. This is a really good design file for a first-time vinyl project because the lines are pretty smooth. There aren't any exceptionally intricate areas, and there aren't any terribly small pieces either. I mean, I did end up sizing the design to about 2.5 inches, which is relatively small, but definitely doable for a first-timer. But I probably wouldn't recommend anything smaller than that for your first vinyl cut. Then when it's done cutting, before you even unload the mat, just test weed a small area with a weeding tool. Just gently lift out an excess piece of vinyl. And here you're just testing to make sure that the blade did, cut the vinyl as well as it did in the test cut, which it should because you did that test cut. But now is the time, if for some reason the vinyl wasn't cut very well and you do that test weed and it's difficult to pull up, you could just adjust the settings on the ScanNCut machine, by increasing the force. And because you didn't unload the machine or unload the mat from the machine, you could, cut it again exactly on those same lines as before. And, with those different cut settings, you could get a better cut. If you had unloaded the mat, there's just no way that you would have been able to reload the mat and have it cut exactly as it did before. So then you'd be left with this vinyl cut that's just impossible to weed, so you'd have to throw it away, or it's just so frustrating doing the weeding that it makes you want to pull your hair out and never use vinyl again, which is definitely not what we want. So, yes, these test cuts and test weeds are a couple extra steps, but in the end, it will save you time, it will save you wasted materials, it'll save your sanity, because it's going to make the rest of the project go smoother, whether or not this is your first project or not. So you did that test weed, it came out great. Now unload the mat and take your weeding tool and weed out the excess vinyl in the design. And I've always liked to start with the inner parts of the letters and of the design, and I've always found using a hand sewing needle as a weeding tool to be effective, so I can just stab and grab those pieces. But if you find a different weeding tool that works best for you, then use that. The main thing that you want to take in mind is with weeding, you want to take your time, work in good lighting so you can keep an eye on that design and make sure that only the excess vinyl is lifting up. And I found that the best way to get that excess vinyl up is to roll it back on itself instead of trying to just lift it straight up. I think you'll find you'll have much better results. And you can see that I haven't even taken the vinyl off the cutting mat. It can actually be easier to weed with the vinyl still on the cutting mat because it helps to hold the vinyl down while you're lifting up the excess. Next, after weeding, you'll need your transfer tape, a burnishing tool, and some scissors. Cut a piece of transfer tape to larger than the decal, and I'll take the transfer tape and I'll stick a small bit of it to my work surface and try to catch the edge of the vinyl decal backing, so that'll hold the vinyl down. Similarly, you could also apply the transfer tape to the decal with the decal still on your cutting mat. Again, just so that it's going to stay down while you hold that transfer tape taut and you rub that burnishing tool over the decal. And this is going to give you a smooth application of the transfer tape to the vinyl. Then lift all of it up together, flip it over, and burnish from the back side. Then roll that vinyl backing off of the vinyl. The transfer tape is going to hold that vinyl as you roll the backing. Again, rolling it yields much better results versus just pulling it up. And next, either put that vinyl backing right back on, or you can do what I did is stick a piece of parchment paper to the back of the decal. And the vinyl and the transfer tape isn't going to permanently stick to the parchment paper, and it's translucent, so it does really help me with aligning the decal and applying it. So whether you put the parchment on the back of the decal or you put the vinyl backing right back on it, cut around the edge of the design and align it onto whatever you're applying the vinyl decal to. So for your first vinyl project, I highly suggest applying your decal to something that's flat and smooth. So like the flat, smooth side of this glass vase. If the surface is dirty, you can run a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on a paper towel over the surface. Let that dry before you start arranging the vinyl decal. Now it's still attached to the parchment, and since that parchment is translucent, I can see through it. I can move it around until it's exactly where I want it to be on the vase. And secure it with a strip of washi tape right down the center of the decal, and press that washi tape down firmly. You can adjust it as many times as you need to, but once it's exactly where you want it, press that washi tape down so that it holds the decal in place. Because next, what you're going to do is you're going to peel back one side of the vinyl decal and cut away the parchment with your scissors. And that washi tape is going to hold the vinyl decal down. It's acting like a hinge so that after you remove the parchment paper, you can just lay that transfer tape right back down. Hold it taut and run your burnishing tool across it and burnish it down really, really well, because now this side of the decal is going to act as your hinge so that you can peel back the other side, remove the washi tape, and then peel back the other side of the transfer tape with the vinyl on it, remove that parchment paper, lay the transfer tape right back down, again holding it taut while you run the burnishing tool across it. And it's laying down exactly where you had it aligned before. And that, my friends, is the most effective way I've found to apply vinyl exactly where you want it on the first try. Don't forget to burnish it down really, really well and then roll back the transfer tape to remove it. And it doesn't hurt if you want to run your finger over the decal after you've removed the transfer tape to make sure that it's good and stuck down. And then you're free to assemble the rest of your projects. Just grab some flowers, faux or otherwise, and arrange them as you like. I put a styrofoam disc in the middle of this vase with some white tissue paper around it to hide it. And then you can just stick some faux flowers into it. You know, this assortment of faux flowers came from the dollar store, as did the vase as well. And you can add a lovely bow around the arrangement. This is just some wired ribbon from the craft store. And then there, my friends, you have created a beautiful flower arrangement that looks like $1,000,000 but didn't cost anywhere near that. Here she is, my friends, a beautiful first-time vinyl project. Now, it's not actually my first vinyl project, but this could be your first vinyl project with your ScanNCut. You can grab the design in the Beginning Crafters SVG and font bundle at Fontsy. So there's a link in the video description to the bundle and to the other supplies that I've used if you want to try this out for yourself, and we really hope that you do. So get crafting, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.